welcome to Tokyo Inklings. This is episode 6. My name is CY. You can find me at tokyostationpens.com or at tokyostationpens on Instagram.
And my name is Jacob. I'm Foodafan on Instagram and I have a blog at foodafan.com.
Thanks for having me again. I'm Khue and you can find me on Instagram at miraikat.
Yes, so this episode we'll have Khue back talking later in our main segment about chasing sparkly sailor pens. But before that, let's talk about some news and some of the new acquisitions that we've got. I think the hot topic on everybody's mind is this Platinum Shun. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts about this new pen?
I really like the design. I think it's one of the most beautiful pens so far. I am not so concerned about the pricing. So we only heard about the US pricing first, right? And then we saw the Japanese price, which, if I remember correctly, is 35,000 yen, which is 5,000 more than the Rocca, right? And I think we all remember that here in Japan, the Rocca was very popular and people tried to pre-order and the shops didn't even know how many we were going to get. So people were even trying to pre-order. It still did not get the pen. And then people sold them on second-hand market for even more. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Platinum saw that and saw that they could capture a bit more of that.
Yeah, I think though, for me, the issue is not so much, let's say, there's a difference, right? Because with the Rocca, they had the SM. Did they have SF? I'm not sure, but at least they had the SM. Yeah. This time, they're coming out with only the standard, like a really, really standard nib sizes. So it's a EF, F, M, and B.
Oh, that's actually interesting because you're right about that. That one of the reasons why the Rocca, at least we believe one of the reasons why the Rocca was popular was that it was the first time in a while that they brought the SM nib to Japan. So previously they had the Kampu release, and the Kampu release had SM nib in EU and US, but not in Japan. So some people imported the European or US Kampu with SM nib to Japan and sold it for a very high price. So people were very keen on getting this SM nib. So when the Rocca came with SM nib, a lot of people pre-ordered for that reason.
Yeah. And as far as I know, the only people that have Roccas that I know all have it in the SM.
That might be the case, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how this one does. 35,000 Japanese yen, and the US price is a whopping 50,000 Japanese yen, maybe, almost.
Wow.
I don't know. Depends on the day of the fluctuation. But yeah, as Brad was saying on the Pen Addict, it's a big jump from the US to Japan. And that's, I think, interesting. We'll see if it comes back to bite them in the butt, especially since, as we found out, Jacob, that Platinum has some extra troubles on their hands with the Curidas.
Yeah.
Oh yes, so there's this drama about the cracked feed. I'm actually not entirely up to date on that. Maybe you can explain what's going on there.
Yeah, so basically the feed, the nib is hugging the feed. It kind of clamps on the feed. Not like a traditional, let's say, open nib, but it looks more kind of like a hooded nib type of deal. It's similar to the vanishing point where the nib hugs the feed, and similar to some of the Lammies. But the difference is that I think Platinum has out-engineered themselves, and this time with the Curidas, the nib hugs the feed so tightly that it's causing the feeds to crack. And now something interesting that I've noticed throughout this kind of saga that unfolded in the past week, it seems to be that the first run of Curidas that they did, i.e. the ones that they did for the stores, for the previews, those haven't cracked. Those seem to be okay. The ones that have cracked seem to be the second round of production run, which they sent to retailers worldwide that has cracked. So that's a much bigger deal, I think, because basically your main production run is having severe issues. And I think that Platinum may need to recall these pens, at least from the retailers, if not from the customers. The customers will be very angry and will go to the retailers for a refund, I'm sure. As long as they know that it's a manufacturing fault, but I mean it's a huge undertaking.
And it's interesting because this pen has been in development for a very long time. I read on Morrison's blog that he was told, I believe, by Platinum's president that the Curidas was in development for 5 years.
Yeah, years.
But what I'm wondering about also is that the release was just before, well, during the early stages of this corona outbreak. It makes me wonder if they did any production changes related to that, if they moved production.
Yeah, I suspect that you're right. Maybe they moved it to a different factory to actually get it out to the retailers, and we'll see. Another new release this time, though, from Sailor, is the new Ishimaru Prophet. Mm-hmm. So this new Ishimaru Prophet, what do you think?
I'm not really the kind of person who chases limited editions, but this one I kind of like. I think it's the smaller Prophet Standard, kind of what it looks like to me, and that's too small for me. But I do kind of like the design. I've seen a lot crazier limited edition Sailors before.
And Khue, what do you think about this one?
It's not my like as it's not a pro gear, I prefer to not look at it as I'm limiting my collection to pro gear. But it's not my type of color, like this double translucent type. So good for my wallet. It's not for me.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think as a release because, as you said, Jacob, it's not a pro gear, which usually they're doing pro gears, but also I have some qualms with the design. But first, let's get to why it's interesting. It's on the smaller size Prophet, which actually has not been that common. I think limited edition small size Prophets is not something that you see a lot on the market. Usually they're pro gear slims or pro gears. And maybe occasionally you get the full size Prophet, but this one being the small size Prophet, I think that's the first interesting thing. It's quite nice. I think the color scheme. I actually have the ink, and it looks a lot like the ink. The kind of translucent color scheme. For me, it works. The problem, as you say, Jacob, is that it's very small.
Yes.
And I think it's not. I think it's at probably the right price point. How much do these retail for? 22,000 yen. It's very nice. I'm sure these will sell out.
And the nib is engraved. The nib have a nice engraving.
Yes,
saw
with
somewhere.
the Gunkanjima. Yeah. Honestly, I would like one of these if it were a Realo.
The nib engraving is pretty.
Yeah, I also like that orange, kind of translucent orange color because it's kind of like reminds me of a vintage pen's ink window. But there's another Prophet release from Kawasaki. Did we see that?
I would check because I'm not sure. I remember. Yeah, this with the written. Yeah, okay. Now I understand what you were talking about. For the Jules Verne 20, how do you call it? 20 milieux sous les mers in French, but I don't know the name in English.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, okay, it's the same.
Yeah, what do you think about this, Jacob? Have you had a chance to look at this?
It's not my favorite design. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't know why they came up with this. The engraving in the cap is kind of weird. It's actually brown. It's not black.
Yeah, it's like chocolate brown.
Yeah,
mocha
it's
chocolate
brown. It's 100 pieces produced. Normally, I quite like these part spin sailors. I don't know who's gonna buy this.
people who really love Jules Verne, I guess. Because they do the whole
so.
packaging, you know, like the ink has this box, and you really feel like in the Nautilus, right? Is it the Nautilus, the name of the... And I think, some people who collect... I don't know.
Yeah, this is a weird pen,
But
sure.
the fact that they on the the measurement on the barrel make it look really like a syringe, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But this brings us then to the fact that he's been busy, Kawasaki, because he's been making an ink.
Yes. So I wanted to talk a bit about that because I thought it was very interesting. So they released a new ink called Amabie. So Amabie is this yokai spirit from like Japanese folklore, and it looks a bit like a mermaid, like a bit of a creepy mermaid. But there's this tale about how the Amabie appeared during the Edo era, somewhere in Kyushu, I believe, and told the people that there's going to be rich harvest for the next few years, but there may also be a plague or an epidemic of some kind. But if that happens, if there is an epidemic, you should draw a picture of me and you should show that to people who fall sick and they will be cured. So from that comes this idea that if there is an epidemic of some kind, you should draw a picture of the Amabie and show that to people who are sick and they will be cured. And of course, that is why Amabie has suddenly become immensely popular in Japan. You see it everywhere. You know, they're on train stations, on the walls. You have Amabie paintings. There are all kinds of products. This Soebume lettering set, and now of course there's had to be an Amabie ink as well. And of course it's sold out immediately. But as far as I can tell, they're going to restock it. And Kawasaki actually, they have an online store. I think it's the Yahoo Shopping. So if you want a very interesting ink that is sort of a very relevant right now, then this might be it.
And he makes inks that are perfect for you because they come in Tamiya bottles.
Oh yes, I love that too. Yes.
Yeah, really small Tamiya bottles. But yeah, this guy, he's an interesting fellow. He makes all these interesting, not for everybody products, but I have to give it to him that what he does is at least quite unique and out there.
Yeah.
Moving on then, I've been shopping recently and it's not good. I've got a lot of sailors. I got 2 sailors. The first one is one with an old music nib. And Jacob, I know you got a music nib too, so why don't you talk about your music nib first?
Right. So I've been on Mercari again. It seems to be a recurring theme here. Every episode I've been on Mercari, but it's I can't help myself. But so last time I talked about how I found an old rusty sailor with a soft nib, and I took that soft nib and stuck it on a Tremel demonstrator, and it worked quite well. So inspired by that, I went back to Mercari and looked for other like rusty old sailors with interesting nibs, and this time I picked up a music nib. I thought the pen was a Profit, but on the cap band it actually says Lifetime pen, and that piqued my interest. I did a bit of research and I found Japanese blogs that suggested that the Lifetime pen predated Profit in 1911, which would make it quite old because according to Tsunami-san's book, Sailor released 1911 on the 70th anniversary, so 1981, and then the next year they re-released it as Profit. So anything before that would be earlier than 1981. But a reliable source in Hong Kong tells me that is not the case, so this pen is newer. But it's very hard to date Sailor pens, right? Because they has this this date stamp on the nibs, but it's just 3 digits, and 1 digit is for the year, and 2 digits are for the months. So, for example, mine says 312, and 3 just means that there's any year that ended with 3. So it could be 1983, 1993, who knows. and then December. So I don't actually know how old the pen is, but the nib has less tipping than a modern music nib, as you also pointed out, which may be a bit more difficult to grind. And I'm sure you try to regrind yours. So what was your experience working with an older Sailor music nib?
So I got an older Sailor music nib because one of our friends from the Penetic Slack wanted to get the Sailor nib to replace her, I think it was like a fine nib or something on one of her vintage Sailors. And so we got the pen from, I think, Yahoo Auctions for like, I don't know, $60, $70. And it turns out that Sailor music nibs of old, the older nibs, don't have a lot of tipping. And they're very much like the 1.1 stubs that you see on modern Yovo nibs. And I knew that this person didn't like using stubs. So I said, hey, it's actually more like a stub or like an italic. It's quite sharp, doesn't have a lot of tipping. What do you want me to do with it? And then she says, oh, what can we do? And I say, you know what? I have an idea. So I turned it, I bent it upwards like a fude nib, but I kept the large shape. And then what I did was I ground the nib so that the tip is rounded.
Like a monoline.
Like a monoline nib. And so this is a monoline fountain pen nib, and it's really, really quite fun. I actually showed it to Mr. Betchuri, who now says he wants a monoline fountain pen.
I want one too.
You want one too? It's very, very fun.
Yeah, it seems.
Yeah.
I want to write garland for birthday and stuff like that with that.
Yeah. We tried and wrote a few fat lines looking at Betchuri's Instagram, kind of copying his style. And yeah, it's great. And I'm calling this my Mikazuki because I think Mikazuki means new moon. And the crescent shape of the monoline nib kind of reminds me of that. So that's what I've been up to with this music nib. And I'm very sorry to all of the vintage Sailor hunters out there. I destroyed one of your treasures, but it's fun and it works quite well. So I'm quite happy with that.
So I know that Betchuri already has one fountain pen with a monoline nib. So he, if I remember correctly, he told me he has a Sailor Fudedemannen. And he got Nagahara to turn the Fudedemannen into some kind of monoline nib. But then you have even less tipping, right? So it would be interesting to compare the Fudedemannen monoline and with your.
Yeah, we've got to see him next time and ask him about it. So if there's some kind of event next, we'll ask him to bring the pen. Yeah.
So the publisher behind the popular stationery magazine Shumino Bungobaku, they recently released a book or a book magazine hybrid called Ink. And as far as I can tell, it's been very popular. You see it everywhere on Instagram, and it was sold out for a while on Amazon. So I had to wait for them to restock it. But I finally got my copy, and the first few pages are about basics like cleaning, maintenance. It talks about ink properties like viscosity and surface tension and how that impacts flow and wetness. And then they have a few pages about the various ways you can do ink swatching, products like Tsubame's ink notebook and so on. And they have interviews with people like Betchuri, of course, and his ink swatching style, and other people like Isato Hiroshi and Kanaji and so on. But then the main feature is a catalog of 2,000 inks. So they have swatched and taken photos of 2,000 inks. So you have all kinds of international brands, but you also have all of these Japanese brands, including the most obscure store exclusives that I have never heard of before. I've been using it to create a shopping list for the next Inkunuma show, basically, right? I've been writing down names of Pentanote and Pen and Penhouse inks and Kakimori inks that I want to get next time. So I think the reason why this magazine is interesting is that if you have any interest in Japanese inks, especially if you want to know about these obscure store exclusive inks, this is the magazine to get. This is as complete of a catalog as you would ever get of these inks.
Yeah, and Shuin Bungubaku has actually done this previously within their regular magazines, right? But not as a one-off.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a huge resource. I think, Khue, probably you need to get this.
It will be dangerous.
Yes.
I think I have maybe 10% of it in my house already. Like every day I'm swatching at around 20-25 bottles, and my husband was like, "You haven't finished yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm already starting the first half of the first drawer." So everyone's getting really frightened.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about in this segment is I mentioned that I got new sailors or old sailors new to me. One of them actually has a kind of an interesting story. So, like you, Jacob, I've been scouring the depths of Mercari, and I managed to snag a set of 2 pens, a Profit Standard, so the smaller size, and an older sailor pen. And this older sailor pen had quite the nib. It says, "Sailor Gold from the Swiss Bank." And so when I saw this, I'm like, that's interesting. So I did a bit of research on Bruno's blog and also some other sites. And this gold from the Swiss Bank nib actually has quite an interesting story. So the story goes that in around the 70s, Sailor bought a bunch of gold from the Swiss private bank Pictet in the 70s, and they made a bunch of nibs with gold from the Swiss bank stamped on them. So as far as I know, they come in the open nib as well as a hooded nib form. The story goes that apparently this set of gold that they bought from Pictet was siphoned out of France during the French Revolution. That's the legend anyways.
Right.
And I think that's quite cool. So Sailor made these into a bunch of nibs. They're not super common now, but they're not so rare. They don't seem to be a super sought after collector's item. But mine sits now in my M200, and it's wonderful, Jacob. It's soft. I mean, it's not soft, but it's bouncy, kind of like your F nibs or the M nibs that Sailor used to do. But I wish they would bring back these 14K, softer nibs.
I'm starting to understand people like our friend Bruno and others who look into vintage nibs, vintage pens and nibs, and learn about the story behind it, because there's a lot of interesting stories there. But an interesting twist when it comes to Sailor in particular is that according to Tsunami-san's book, there's very little information in Sailor's archives in Khue. So there's actually not that much information from Sailor about past releases. You have to rely on what former employees and others have learned over the years. So it can be particularly hard to find good information about Sailor.
Yeah, so then on this note, for everybody that's buying from Japan, just a little bit of an update on the shipping status. I work with airports in my kind of day job, and as far as I'm aware, up until around the 15th or the 14th of June, there are only about 5 or 6 international flights from Japan from each of the airports. So if you bought something from Japan and you're using EMS, you gotta be patient, wait for the long haul. DHL is of course much better, and Hiroko from Bookmondo told me that she's trying to use Yamato for some of her customers, but shipping from Japan is still quite delayed. I can't wait until we get regular shipping back again, because I've got a bunch of stuff resting in my guest room that I need to ship out. But if you're looking to buy from Japan, be aware that it's going to take a while.
But yeah, it depends on location too. Some locations seem to work almost as normal, so between Japan and Taiwan, for example.
Yeah, I think within the Asian area, even Australia, it's okay, and Europe and the United States or South America is more like we have to be more patient.
Yeah, it all depends on where the flights go.
But somewhat related to that, things are slowly returning to some sense of normalcy here in Japan, right? So they have lifted the state of emergency in many parts of Japan now, including I think even Osaka now.
Yeah, Osaka, Kyoto, Hyogo, the whole Kansai area.
Yeah, and they have a plan in place for lifting the state of emergency in Tokyo as well, and some shops are planning to reopen as well. So we talked a few days ago about how Kakimori, this popular place that sells custom notebooks and inks, they are going to open again on June 2nd. But their approach is that you have to make a reservation in advance for just 1 hour slot, and they say that the staff will take the temperature, and they're going to have installed these panels and all the precautions that are necessary. But they are slowly opening up now, which is both good and bad, I guess.
Yep.
As we were talking about shipping, I don't know if you have heard that Rakuten Global Market,
Rakuten Global,
is closing from June 1st. And I know that many foreigner customers use it for some of the Japanese stationery who sell on Rakuten. So this is kind of sad news, but they still keep the local one, the Japan one. So they said you have to use Google Translate because it's only in Japanese, but most of the shop will try to keep the selling, I guess, for international customers. So if anyone needs to order anything on Rakuten Global Market, do it before the 1st of June.
Yeah, you've got 1 week.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sure this is also good news for these shopping agents like White Rabbit and Tenso and Zen Market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of news about even shipping from Japan in the past few weeks. But let's move on to our main segment today, and the big reason why Khue is here is because she's an aficionado at chasing limited edition sailors. And I know a lot of our listeners are actually interested in limited edition sailors. So let's start with where Sailor's position is in this limited edition market versus the other, Pilot and Platinum.
They're on top.
Sailor is on top.
Yeah, far away. I'm following a bit Pilot and Platinum too, but they don't if you take a limited edition in general, not only sparkling, but all limited edition, Platinum have some with for the Preppy line, with Soso, the Kyoto fabrics brand, or with some artist designer Mizutama-san, right? The one who do Anko and handmade rubber stamp. So they have this kind of limited edition for some shop or Tsutaya, but it's more really not expensive pen. And Pilot have some, I remember I fall in love with one Pilot capless they made for Itoya. I know they usually made 1 or 2 pen for Itoya per year, but there's not a lot of advertisement. So if you go to Itoya at that time, you will be lucky
You're
to
lucky.
see it in the windows. If not, like they don't post it on Instagram, neither on their website. And I was looking for this pen because I saw it and I didn't buy it, and then I regret it, and I tried to look it online, and I found one woman in the US who got it for her birthday. But that's the only picture I could find on the internet. So I was like, okay, they were selling maybe 10 of them, I don't know. And you don't have any much more information. And they have this limited edition they do once a year for at least for the capless, and then all the more expensive like line, or the Raden and all the big pen, but not in my average. So Sailor is like releasing, I don't know, every month, twice a month, 3 times a month, for shops, from either for shop and even for their like main line. They release, I think, once. I don't have the dates, but usually you see them either for the foreign market or for the local market. They have some limited edition 100, 500 piece, and this kind of stuff.
As far as I am aware, actually, the first brand that started to go into this limited edition market, I believe, is Pilot with the Custom Kai. Jacob, do you know anything about the Custom Kai?
I don't know a lot, but I believe that there's a small group of retailers. I think they're only brick and mortar, and I think they need to have like some pilot sales representative or some person with pilot certified training and so on. They are allowed to sell a limited edition pilot pen. They have one every year called the Custom Kai pen. It's usually some kind of gouache pattern or some custom color and so on. Yeah, you're right. That is. I don't know how long that's been around, but I've seen it for quite a few years.
Yeah, I think the Custom Kai is this network of stores that, as you said, have a good connection with Pilot, that are allowed to sell these limited edition colors. And so I have one, for example, I have one with a black body and white finials. And I think they come out with a set of 3 colors every year that they distribute to these stores, and you can only get them at these stores, and they're all Japan exclusives.
Of course.
I think. So that's the I think one of the first forays before this limited edition became super, super big. The difference with Pilot and Sailor, I think, is that Sailor does store exclusives, whereas Pilot, the only stores that they do store exclusives with, as far as I can recall, is Maruzen, Mitsukoshi, Itoya, and Shosaikan. And the one for Shosaikan is the emperor-sized myth, which we'll try to talk about a little bit in the future once we get more time to play with it and take some pictures.
Oh yes, we should.
Yeah, but Pilot is not really on the custom game in terms of store exclusive, because they believe that it will dilute the brand. Whereas Sailor is not so concerned with the dilution of their brand, but they're more concerned about getting their products out to retailers and having lots and lots of people use them. Platinum, on the other hand, I think is getting there on the limited edition game, but the difference then with Platinum and Pilot is that Platinum is actually coming out with different types of molding for their pens. So I think that makes them a bit more interesting than Pilot in terms of the limited edition, because what you're getting is not just a recoloring of the pen, but it's actually something that feels different in your hand. So with the Xion as well, it kind of looks wavy, but actually it's just diamond facets.
Yeah.
When you hold that in your hand, it feels very different and feels special. So that I think makes Sailor at the top of the game, but their pens are recolorings, right? But they have a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot.
Well, they have a few that are a bit more different. So, for example, the recent Bungbox 4B pen, right? But those tend to be quite expensive. Most of the store exclusives you find are just, I think you used a term before, parchment pens.
Yeah, parchment pens. But even the one with the Bungbox, they've made the gathered sailors before, so they've had the tools.
Right.
Whereas Platinum has to develop new tools to make their pens. Yeah, and then Pilot, unfortunately, for me, comes at the bottom because it's they're not so innovative and they're not so prolific with their releases either. But what do you look for, Khue? How do you find out about these limited editions and these store exclusives?
Usually completely by accident. Instagram is a very good place, I guess, to start. And I used to follow this blog, lepens.com, limited edition pens. But they didn't update anything since 2019, so I don't know what happened on their side. But they collect, like they make kind of classification of all the Sailor limited edition by store in Japan. Most of them are, you have to go to the store. Like some didn't even accept like a White Rabbit or how you call this kind of
shipping agencies.
Shipping agencies. And so LE Pens was one of my my main resource, and the other one was the Sailor limited page. On their website, they always put all the new release in store too, mostly, but they don't put all of them, I guess. Like some of the pen you never, if you don't know the shop, or if you don't know about if you don't follow the shop on Instagram, or if you don't know about the like, for example, Shishikura-san, if you don't know about her, you won't see her pen neither on Sailor, neither on any blog or website. So Sailor limited page, I think once a month they publish something, usually quite often. So if you are interested, you have to check regularly. And like they will tell you there is 50 limited edition of this pen in shop. Call them or go there, or 100 piece, and the fastest you are, the better you will get the chance to have it.
Yeah.
And if not, so like I told you last time, that when I was doing my research in architecture, I used to travel around Japan a lot, so I discovered a lot of the pen completely by accident. Like in Okayama, Usagiya store, I was lucky to get in Okayama, check which stationery shop was around, find the page of Usagiya, see that they just released 2 days ago a new pen, call them, ask if they have the pen, and go there. So I was really like, it was really so, like, some part was really like, just be, there at the good time, and it's how
being there at the right time,
exactly,
at the right place. Jacob, do you chase limited edition sailors?
No, not really. The only one I've ever bought was one of those cocktail pens, the old-fashioned. I've been tempted to buy Morrison's special edition Imperial Black, which is not actually black, but it's sort of it's based on Imperial Black, but it's a dark blue barrel instead, Imperial Blue, I guess. I never actually bought that one, so yeah, I'm not really into that. I enjoy looking at them, but I wouldn't buy them.
Yeah, so then, Khue, what tempts you to buy these limited editions or store exclusives?
As there are so many releases at the same time, I cannot follow, or my wallet cannot follow anymore. I really try to reduce my collection to some rules. Like, if it's not a pro gear, I don't even look at it. And ideally, they must have some shiny part, like sparkling or
Mm-hmm.
how to say
Glitter.
yeah, glittering and something like
Yeah.
that. So at least I try to maintain a red line in the whole collection, and is why I start sell some of my previous sailor too that I bought at the beginning. The first time I discovered a sailor with sparkling was I went to Morita in Osaka, and I got his pen, the Morita eggshell, in a Pro Gear Slim, and then he got this. You know, they released this Four Season pen. I think every 5 years, they like now they just released a new color of this Four Season.
Otogi Banashi.
Yeah, exactly. And the series before was the I got this Yuki Tsubaki, this white one with the red sparkling. Well. Yeah, and I got the Procolor 500 Stardust, the Hoshikusa.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the two first one that I bought with sparkling. So they were not limited edition like in numbers, not like small numbers. But I know that now you can only find in second hand the Procolor 500, for example. You don't find it in main shop anymore. They don't release it anymore. They have new colors. So I think it's the same with the new series. They just release, like, you will find them for a while, and then maybe in 3-4 years they will release a new series and you don't find the old color anymore. And then Pentonote entered the game with this rainbow, transparent, really glittering, colorful Pro Gear Slim. So at the beginning I got, I think there is once every 3-4 months or something like that. And I got them all, like the 5 first one. And then they released one color that I didn't like it, so I didn't take it. And then the second color I didn't like it, and then I said, okay, stop, it's good. I don't need to go further anymore. But I was a bit afraid.
Yeah.
There released so many in a very short time. And Instagram is when you start to follow most stationery shop that sell sailor, like Pen to Note, Pen Point, Pen House. Then you will every time they release a new one, they will publish something, and then you can follow. Or even Shishikura Kyoko-san, you can follow when they create a new color, a new pen, and usually it's in store, so you have to go there in person. But some shop sell online, but only in Japan usually.
Yeah.
Or
only domestic.
I think Pen House. They were selling on Rakuten Global, because I know that some of my friends could order them overseas.
Yeah. So I noticed that you are actually selling 5 Pro Gear Slims.
Exactly.
Now, so is it because they're Pro Gear Slims and not Pro Gear?
Yeah, like as I try to I like Pro Gear Slim at the beginning, but since I discovered the Pro Gear, and especially the one from Shishikura-san, they are a little bit more, like, they are heavier than the Pro Gear Slim. I feel it more comfortable for me, and the Pro Gear Slim was a little bit too small, too light for my hands, so I don't have the same pleasure to ride with him. And I was like, okay, I need to start selling some, and I decide to start.
So do you ever decide to sell your Pro Gears, or is that something that's part of your permanent collection once it goes in?
It's part of my permanent collection if there is glitter, and I have 2 Pro Gear without glitter that I bought before, and I guess there will be the next one that I will get separate too, just because I cannot hold all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm actually similar to you in that I specifically avoid cartridge converters, so thank God for my wallet that a lot of pens are cartridge converters. But I've been really into these Realos lately.
Yeah, you told me.
And yeah, so there's this Rialo, the new Nagasawa Rialo, not new, it came out last year, but the one with the fire department.
Yeah.
That really. I think it's calling my name. I've resisted so far, and they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
44,000 Japanese yen.
Yeah.
But it has a metal section. It's calling my name.
So there was a new Realo from Kingdom Note, right? That was by limited edition standards for reasonably priced.
Yeah.
Yes. The new Kingdom Note Realo comes from they have a series, no?
I'm not sure if it's from the series. I have to check.
Yeah, it's from I believe so. It's from the Genji Monogatari series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But they release like once every, not as fast as the Pro Gear. Like when they got their Pro Gear series, the last one was the mini one with the seashell and sea cucumber and stuff like that. But the one from the Tale of Genji, they release I think once a year, once every.
No, these are releasing every month.
Oh yeah.
So the next release, the Kaoru, will be next Monday.
Okay.
And then in June, there will be a Ukifune Yarorigi. And then in July, there's going to be another one, Nionomiya. And then in August, there's going to be yet another one. So 6 releases this year just for Kingdom Note.
Yeah, so the same as their vegetable series and their Sea World series.
Yeah, this one is going to be in Realo, which is nice. And the Kaoru, what do you think about the Kaoru, Jacob?
I quite like it actually. Some of Kingdom Notes pens, especially the Kyoyasai series, have had somewhat all the color choices, but I do like the Kaoru.
Yeah, I think the Kaoru is very, very nice. If it were a bit more translucent, or as as Khue says, if it had a bit more sparkles, I would probably fall for it. But this is exceptionally nice. They've done some weird color combinations in the past, but this is more, I think, standard and really eye-catching.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about limited edition sailors?
Some shop they sell some online. For example, Pen Point, they release some of their limited edition online. But if you go in shop, you will see they have a bigger range, and they usually sell they have one in the window. You can buy one piece at a time, so you cannot go and buy for someone else if you want to buy the same pen, or you have to come back. It's not really easy to access because they are a little bit outside Tokyo.
Yep.
And they will change, the woman, the owner, she will change every weekend. She won't put the same one on the window. So if you go on weekend and you don't find your dream pen, if you come back 2 weeks later, you will have different pen there. And she will keep some limited edition she released maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and she will sell them drop by drop. So if you know a pen that someone has bought but you cannot find, you can ask her, and then she will bring it for you the next time. So it's kind of hunting, treasure hunting, because you never know what you will find about. And I know that a lot of people were looking for the Cosmos, this pink shade Cosmos flower that was sold out, and these were really sold out, but she confirmed that they will release a new series because it was so popular. So the limited edition is a bit for the shop one. If people always say, oh, but it's currently sold out. I say, yeah, but insist, if you contact the shop, and it's a lot of people contact the shop, they're not really limited. They can release them if they want to. So, Penthouse, this rainbow transparent one. I think I made a mistake. I said Pen to Note before, but it was Penthouse. They start to release them again, color by color. They used to stop after 6 or 7 color, and I saw last year that they start to release the pink one again, then the green one again, then the blue one again. So if people ask and they see that there is some interest, they have nothing to lose to release them. So it's not always limited. The one who has Mori, Mita Club, the one who has numbers, then they really limit it because it's the collector who made the strength of this pen. And the pen is of course beautiful, but then if there's numbers you cannot really start again. It's a bit strange.
Yeah. So then, getting back to the idea of the parts bin pens, Jacob, do you think that this strategy of releasing limited editions, every month basically, how do you think that affects their brand image?
To me, it's like this Inkunuma, right? Every year, I think that's it. The market is saturated. Keep thinking it's the same thing with these limited edition sailors that just have, slightly different set of colors, like just opaque or semi-translucent colors. But they seem to sell very well, and I haven't seen any evidence that it's affecting sailors' brand in any negative way.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I talk to some retailers and I say, can you make a limited edition Sailor or a limited edition Rialo? And they tell me, Sailor does it for all of these random stores, and it's kind of cheap. So we don't want to be part of that. And I think in terms of the consumer, having all this choice and, them being store exclusives, I think actually that strengthens the brand in the eyes of the consumer, because then you're, chasing all these collector items. And they're not exactly super inexpensive, right? But in the eyes of the retailers, I think this poses a problem. Do we do a limited edition with Sailor? Do we do a store exclusive when all the other stores have it, or do we want to really do something special and wait for one of the other to work with us on this? So I think that's some food for thought. There's no saying, one is better than the other in terms of strategy, but for sure it makes, I think, some of the retailers pause and think, should we do this limited edition with Sailor? But, while it lasts, I will try to find as many Rialos as I can, and yeah, it's quite fun.
Yeah. At least on Instagram, when you see people who collect the Sailor, either Pro Gear or Pro Gear Slim, and they made this kind of rainbow picture, it's always really joyful. So you look at the picture and say, "Oh, I didn't have this color. Oh, where is this one from?" And some Instagrammer are really into this Sailor collection, and it's really interesting because you discover a new pen, and of course there's this a little bit second dark market. Some people reselling limited edition in China or somewhere, and you don't know where they're from. They're sent from Japan, but the guy is not known on the social media and stuff. So it's a bit. And when you ask the shop, they don't know about him, but he has all the limited edition from this store, and you're like, okay, who is this guy? What he's doing this secondhand sale, and it's kind of mysterious and very fun, I guess.
Yep. So let's get on to our questions. The first one is from Tiago JP. I'm sorry, I don't know what's the correct way to say this name. But he asks, I was wondering where I can get nibs custom ground in Japan, and how can I get a pen tweaked by the legend Nagahara Sensei?
So for the first question, it's you, CY?
For sure. The big department stores and stationery stores, they occasionally have these pen clinics. I'm not sure if that is the right place to go for a custom grind. I think they would prefer if you just go ask for, some ink flow adjustment rather than, actual grinding. What I would say is if you want a custom grind, other than Nagahara's, when he does his events, I would say you can actually send it to, not in Tokyo, but pen and message in Kobe. Yoshimune Sensei, he actually accepts mail-in, so you can send your nibs to him for a regrind. Of course, if you're a tourist and you're here for a week, that might not be an option. But if you're here a bit longer, then that could work.
Yeah, I think we mentioned previously that grinds are not so popular in Japan. I mean, people don't really get stuff to grind into, like, let's say a stub or a italic or an architect. It's mostly adjustments. So a lot of the pen workers here don't even do the grinds. They refuse. But Yeah, you can always ask me. You can ask, Pen and Message. Pen and Message are quite expensive. They charge 8,000 yen a grind, which is that's a heavy price to pay. But then the second part of the question is, how can I get a pen tweaked by the legend Nagahara Sensei? And I think you're more familiar with Nagahara-san than I am.
So he now has a website in Nib Shaper, and he has to schedule them. Now, of course, because of the virus situation, most of the events that were planned for last month and this month have been postponed or cancelled. I'm not aware of anything in the immediate future, but I'm sure there will be at least at Bangbox eventually later this year. I have a events schedule on my website where I update when I know about these things. I will post it there. But he also told me that he would start to do a mail-in, but as far as I can tell, he hasn't done that yet. But eventually you will be able to send your nibs to Nagahara for regrind.
Yeah, and he's mostly been posting about what he's eating for dinner rather than some nib stuff. Yeah. And also you can buy pre-adjusted pens from Mr. Kawaguchi, Kawaguchi Pen Doctor. But his stuff is, again, very, very expensive. But you can find him at Kawaguchi Man, I think.
Yeah, I think what he does is that he buys these old, worn-down, vintagey pens, and he restores them and fixes ink flow adjustment and so on, and then he sells them. I'm not sure if he's offering any. I don't think if you can buy like an old sailor ground to a stub from him. I don't think that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think he would faint if you asked him to do that.
Yeah, he's quite opinionated.
And does Nagahara Sensei made some nib for Franklin Christoph, right? When he was here last fall?
Yeah, so there's a rumor that he's going to replace Mike Masayama as the grinder for FC, but we don't know. Okay, and our next question, Mariska from Instagram asks, as you mentioned a little bit in episode 4, limited editions are sold out within hours. Can you talk a bit about places in Japan where you can purchase online or places which accept forwarding services? What do you think about places like Pensachi or Bungabox that is more foreign customer friendly? And what is the best way for someone outside of Japan to procure a Japanese pen? Thanks and keep up the good work.
So as I said before, there is some of the shop like Pen Point, Pen to Note. They accept, or even a Mita Club. You can contact them like either by email, either on their Instagram private message, and usually they accept to send overseas some of their pen. I never use forwarding services as in Japan, so I really don't know which shop accept these. I know that some really only accept to go like Pen Point. You have to go there to see the limited edition that they show. They only sell maybe 4 or 5 of their series on Yahoo, on their Yahoo page, but I think it's limited to Japan. You cannot order outside, I guess. And there is Hachimonjia, who I think accept.
I don't think so.
No, they don't. I wasn't sure.
I'm not sure, but they might accept forwarding services, but they don't.
Sorry,
ship
it was that. I haven't finished. It was like I think they accept forwarding service because I saw a lot of people out overseas having their pen. So I guess it's by forwarding services. Like Usagiya, you have to go in shop. I know that they don't even send inside Japan. You have to go to Okayama, and if not, you have to come during a fair, because then all the shop will bring what they still have in stock, and if you are lucky, you can find some of the limited edition. If not, you have to find some friend in Japan.
Yeah, I think the best way, maybe I'm biased, but I think the best way and most sure way is to ask somebody.
Yeah.
in Japan to do it for you.
Exactly. I help some of my pen pals with the ordering some pen, and I know that you do the same too.
Yeah.
So yeah. But even if Pensachi and Bungo Box are really, I never use Pensachi myself, but I heard a lot of my friends who order on Pensachi and they're really happy, and it seems like a very nice family friendly shop. I think based in Totori. And the owner is a fountain pen lovers who travel abroad, live abroad a while, and come back to Japan, who speak perfectly English. And for Bungo Box, the same. They are really helpful, as they have some clerk who can answer your emails and stuff. So I can only recommend them because it seems like they have very professional services.
Yeah, Jacob, anything to add?
Only that some of those brick and mortar only stores seem to have slowly started to experiment with online because of the virus situation. I think we mentioned that earlier, but Kobayashi, they stole some of their sought after swordings online. I'm not sure if they have sold their pens online, but it might be worth at least asking them.
Yeah, most for the inks they start like to release a lot of online.
Yeah.
But for the pen, I'm not sure.
So that's the episode. That's a wrap. Thank you so much, and especially thank you, Khue, for joining us again on this adventure to talk about collecting limited editions. It was really insightful to hear how you find and how you collect Sailor limited editions in store exclusives. I know a lot of our listeners are very interested in that. And of course, as usual, thank you, Jacob, for joining me and hosting this show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
And most of all, thank you to our listeners who listen and support this production. We are really motivated by your listens and your comments and your feedback. So please, if you want, tell a friend. Tell a family member, tell someone who you know online who's interested in Japanese stationery, and help us spread the word. We would really, really appreciate that. My name is CY. You can find me at tokyostationpens.com or at tokyostationpens on Instagram.
And my name is Jacob, and I am a Fudefan on Instagram, and I have a blog at fudefan.com.
And my name is Khue, and you can find me on Instagram at miraikat. And I would like to thank you, Jacob and CY, for your invitation. It was a real pleasure for me to spend this time with you and sharing all my passion for inks and sparkling fountain pens. So see you soon, guys.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.